So we're back, finally. It's been a while since we've recorded, but last time we left off, we talked about our go to market plan. We talked about more of the NiHowdy products. We identified who our ideal customer profiles were. And we also have this really cool product called Meowdy, where we help customers save on pet prescriptions and get the rebates. So it's obviously a little bit different of a customer profile there. And we sort of broke this down into dog owners and cat owners. So let's kind of talk about that with some of our listeners. How do we sort of determine that dogs and cat owners are the ones that we want to target with this product when we launch it?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably what we can start is why we had the idea to start including pets into our prescription process to begin with. At the end of the day, one of the big goals of NiHowdy is to make prescriptions affordable to all, and to a lot of people, their extended family tend to include pets that they love, that their children love, and so making sure that they also get the best quality of care and making it less burdensome on those families aligns with our mission very well. And we just thought that this would be a great place to kind of get our foot in the door and see where else we can help out. So, with that in mind, we really looked at the most common prescriptions that pets would need, as well as a lot more demographic data with their owners. Some examples of this, we see that men tend to be more owners of dogs, where women tend to be more owners of cats. Cats tend to be a little bit more psychologically standoffish, individualistic. Dogs tend to be a lot more reliable on their owner. With their, best friends, man's best friend, as they've known. So we had to make sure we got into the mind of really the purchaser here, even though it is for the pet at the end of the day. But
Yeah, you sort of hit a nail on the head right there. I think it'll be more fun to talk about cat owners first before dog owners.
yeah, I mean, we don't have to go too deep into it, but overall, through a couple case studies we saw online, we found out that cat owners tend to be a little bit more emotional, a little bit more individualistic, just like cats themselves, very individualistic. And kind of the messaging that we wanted to drive out there is that we almost wanted to play on the judgmental bias that cats have in terms of, your cat's judging you for not making the right decision for buying her prescription with me, howdy. Um, she's not happy. So that definitely played into the messaging there, as well as we did find out about 70% of cat owners at the age of 60 are, wait, what does that stat say?
70%
Yeah.
of cat owners are around the age of 60 or higher.
Oh, those are
But
two different sentences.
yeah, but we
Okay.
also discovered that people that are 18 to 24 are now more likely to also become cat owners, which was somewhat news to me because generally all younger people I know have dogs.
I think that's
Yeah,
more of like a fallout or like a result of COVID happening, where people are, considering to have like a pet.
yeah, completely agree. I bet if we looked up some data on that, we'd see a pretty big spike just at the time when, people needed interaction. But and then yeah, I mean, moving on to dogs with Major Mako here. So overall, we found out that dog owners are more likely to be low income. 67% of homes have a pet that. Oh my gosh, dude! I cannot read this data.
67% of homeowners or people that have a home tend to have a pet. And
Yeah,
then,
so this
Yeah.
is each a different
I think
sentence, pretty much.
yeah,
Okay.
there's 25 to 49-year-olds, approximately 33% of them also have pets. So there's a high level of pet ownership within our target demographic, which is pretty well known. I mean, you guys have pets, right? You guys have dogs.
Yeah.
We
I
fall
mean,
in
there
that
isn't really
bucket.
insurance for animals. I mean, there is insurance, but it's more of like a commercial thing. It's not like the government pays for the medications of animals.
Yeah,
So it
so
might
one thing
be
to also remember, when we were discussing launching Meowdy and launching a pet offering, I remember asking you guys, like, when we used to have patients that would come in, did they ever question or ask how much their pet medication is going to cost? And for most of the time, the answer was always no. We found that people tend to consider the cost of what they're going to be spending for their medication, but when it comes to their pets, that all kind of goes out the window. And most of the time, what I've noticed at least is pet prescriptions tend to be upcharged by a significant margin compared to human prescriptions. And there's no solution that's helping pet owners save money on their pet prescriptions rather than just their own prescription. So that was sort of the thesis and the basis for launching an entire pet offering. And ultimately, we want to make sure that if you're saving money on yourself, you're also going to be saving money for your pet prescriptions, then gaining a reward back for that as well.
Yeah, there's a huge markup on pet prescriptions. It's ridiculous. Most of the time, the vets and the veterinarians want to sell the medications to the actual pet owners, sort of like bypassing the pharmacy, and they'll add like a really huge markup. But a really interesting statistic or like fact I came across was that I think like 25 to 30% of the revenue of like a veterinarian office is actually derived from selling medications, which I thought was a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a very large amount. So you almost think that they have more of a reason to push the brands and like the expensive medications over generics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think a lot of pet owners also sometimes don't know that the equivalent is available in human form, which is at a fraction of the cost that you can get at the pharmacy rather than spending hundreds of dollars at the vet for this exact same medication that's quote unquote name branded for pets, for their dog or for their cat.
Yeah. There's a dentist I know. He gives sildenafil, which is like Viagra essentially, for his dog. I think his dog has like pulmonary arterial hypertension. But obviously, like when you have pulmonary arterial hypertension, you're taking sildenafil, you're taking it as a lower dose. Now, if you're extrapolating that to animals, especially a dog, they're taking even a lower dose. But he asked me, like, can I just give my dog like the human form of sildenafil to my dog, but just like break the dosing up? Completely possible. And it's obviously a lot cheaper than just buying something that's just formulated for the dog.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so other than Meowdy, we have a couple other ICPs left here. Now, Amr, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you've been kind of handling most of our B2B stuff. Do you want to go through some of these B2B ICPs we came up with, especially, with the nonprofits kind of being the center of our focus?
Yeah, so we were trying to determine, which businesses would be most synergistic with what we're trying to do. And you can pick any business and what we're offering can benefit their staff, their team, their employees, or even their customers. But what we ultimately came up with was nonprofits being the first one, because we have a pet offering, pet organizations, pet shelters being the second one. And then the third one was insurance brokers and other people that offer benefits. Those are our three major ones, right? If I'm not mistaken. But I think we only really came up with the accurate ICP for the nonprofits and kind of broke that down. So we can go over that for today. The two biggest ones on the nonprofit sector. So as you guys know, we've been working with a company called The Giving Block to help facilitate our Bitcoin donations back to all these charities and nonprofits. And we broke that down into three separate affiliations, I guess. We have, your crypto and Bitcoin nonprofits. We have our pet shelters and pet organization nonprofits. And then we have our healthcare advocacy nonprofits, which would be specific disease state organizations that exist, and anything else that's really targeted to a specific patient demographic. So with those three, generally most of the ideal customer profile is somewhat the same because we're now focusing our attention more towards the company rather than the individual members of that organization. And we just picked those three because they're going to be the most synergistic with what we're trying to do and what we're trying to offer. In terms of actually breaking down like the ideal customer for each one, there's it can go in many different directions. I don't think we got that far to specify who we wanted to target within each one of those things. But those are our three main ICPs. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I think maybe breaking this down because there's so many different like organizations that are out there. But one thing we
Yeah.
kind of looked at was, what's the company size? I think we determined that a company size that has like 50 employees or less would probably be a perfect fit for us, just because there's going to be a lot less decision makers that would be involved. Typically, when there's more decision makers involved, it's a higher sales cycle, and that takes a longer time. Given our product is sometimes could be a one-time transaction or it could be a repeating transaction, based on someone's need. They might be a 1099 or a contractor. We're more likely to resonate with companies that have a smaller company size.
Yeah. And going to kind of the nonprofit side of things, one of the reasons we worked with Giving Block and are continuing to work with them as partners is that we actually are able to open up another avenue, another opportunity for them to collect donations. And so it was kind of a really good fit for us because obviously the Giving Block is kind of the main company out there, middleman in crypto donations to these nonprofit charities. And so with one of our main value propositions being these appreciating rewards in Bitcoin, now we can leverage that as well as an opportunity for their customers to get their prescriptions with us, earn their Bitcoin through us, and then donate it through the Giving Block to these nonprofit organizations. And so that kind of opened up a whole other avenue in terms of who can we go after, how can we service some of these members, some of these potential customers in terms of, outside of the norm, outside of our core base offering. This was a cool way that I felt like we were able to adapt and be a little agile as you need to be as a startup to now, we can service these industries. We can service these 200 or 300 nonprofit affiliates with the Giving Block. And it's a giving relationship back and forth. Basically, we have the opportunity to talk and access their customers. Their customers have the opportunity to donate their free rewards to them. So it's kind of a win-win overall. And I think that was one of the bigger things that we've accomplished lately, at least in the B2B market, where again, we stepped outside of the box and we kind of thought outside of the box and we went against the norm there. So that was really cool, I think, to see.
Yeah, one of the main reasons that we decided to work with nonprofits and sort of push that model was we got the continuous question of, hey, I love the discount, but I don't really care for the Bitcoin reward. And we were constantly trying to figure out what a solution for that was. Now, by opening up the donation aspect of nonprofits and other organizations, all our customers, if they don't care about their Bitcoin reward, they can just elect to donate to whatever cause they care about. And that way it's still benefiting someone else. Customers are still getting their discounted prescription or discounted medications, and everyone continues to win rather than it just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool part is a lot of affiliates that we'll be working with. They're constantly always looking for donations, and if there's another way they can receive a donation method, it opens up a wider pool of donors for that organization. And there's a lot of people who do want to donate crypto or do donate Bitcoin, but a lot of these nonprofits don't currently accept that as a mechanism. So again, it's a great way for nonprofits and affiliates to work with us. It's a great revenue stream for them.
Yeah, huge shout out to Giving Block for sort of getting the inner workings resolved on how to get crypto donations and Bitcoin donations out to all these organizations.
Oh yeah.
We would have built it out ourselves if we didn't find them.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can move it to our marketing channels now. And I've kind of talked a little bit more about the ICPs.
Yeah, marketing channels can be a big one. We spent a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
time on that.
Yeah, so James, I know you put together kind of the initial channels here, the inbound marketing, outbound marketing, the product-led marketing, channel-led, ecosystem-led, and community-led, and event-led. Do you want to maybe give a brief synopsis of each quick before we dive into kind of the main ones we focused on?
Yeah, I mean, inbound marketing is more about the content that you're putting out there. So people will look up things and they'll try to discover you. Obviously, that's really passive and it's quite slow, but we spent a lot of our time doing that. Outbound marketing is more of like digital ads, advertisements that you're going to pay for, putting product in people's faces and sort of getting a reaction from them. The other one is product led marketing. Typically, you would have some sort of feature or something that your product does that other people can sort of share with other people. Um, that's kind of what product led marketing is. We have channel led marketing, depending on um, organizations. I'm gonna have to come back to that one because it's kind of eluding my mind right now. Ecosystem led is a little bit harder, but that's typically if you have you think about like the Apple Store or the App Store for the iPhone, you have a whole ecosystem there where people are downloading apps and sharing. It allows people to sort of like integrate into that system. You have community led, which could typically be like forums. You could be like Reddit, or it could create a Discord community or a Telegram. That one's a little bit harder to do, but it works great for some businesses. Then you have event led, which is you can think about it as if like you're hosting like a thought leadership program or a seminar or something of that nature. But kind of like just going back, I mean, those were the ones that we identified for the marketing channels, and we really decided to spend a lot of our time in inbound marketing, looking at our other competitors that are out there. A lot of them spend a lot of time doing search engine optimization, writing articles, writing blogs, and sort of putting their presence out there. It's obviously the cheapest way to go, but it obviously takes the longest time. But through the inbound marketing, we had a lot of different channels. We have our blogs, our product pages, and then we have Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, um, and our podcast that we occasionally do once in a while, and some newsletters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know we talked a while ago when we brought up kind of where our marketing strategy was when we started the company, where we wanted to go with it. We honed in on SEO. And just as a quick refresher, one of the big reasons for that is if we can build a strong organic base, then over time, and especially as investor money comes in, when we have to really focus on metrics such as cost per acquisition, that brings that cost down a lot because then we will have a lot of free traffic, we'll have free conversions, we'll have actual customers versus some companies and startups do tend to dump a lot of money into ads, especially when they get investor funding. And when you see that, you see the cost per acquisition tend to go up. And overall, that's not a metric that investors want to see go up. I mean, founders, you don't really want to see it go up either. But that's one of just the big reasons we focused on SEO. And like Jim says, SEO is very, very large part of inbound marketing. And I think one of the bigger lifts here that we've all kind of played a part in, and I think we also mentioned before, was our product pages, where we took more or less about a year to go through. We created content for close to 4,000 drug product pages. We were able to push live, we were able to QA. And the overall goal there is that now we have some unique content on these pages to help them rank as well. With additional kind of features and content coming soon. I mean, we have the historical pricing tool coming over the next couple of weeks, so that way people can actually visually see how the pricing has changed over recent history, kind of make sure they're getting a good price on it themselves. And just, the more you know, the better off you'll be. So I think that'll be another feature that could help us at least rank for a lot of keywords in terms of cost. How much does amoxicillin cost? How much did it cost without insurance? How much did it cost 5 years ago? We'll be able to target those keywords, which are very conversion oriented, a little bit more with that. And ideally, again, this is all free traffic that we don't have to pay for now, which gives us just a great baseline when we move forward, especially when we talk about scaling with investors.
Yeah, I think it's just so important. I mean, that's kind of how we established our base. I think if we went the digital ads route, I mean, we would have burned money, and we still wouldn't have a lot of content that's put out there. But yeah, it was really important for us to work on these product pages, for us to put information on drugs and what are their side effects and things that people would ask commonly about those products.
Yeah, for
Yeah, I mean
sure.
with SEO, since we're on the topic, we've been working a lot on optimizing it, but I guess I want to ask you guys, what's been the biggest hurdle that we've sort of dealt with and overcome over the last couple of weeks in terms of SEO, and what we've seen that's kind of working the best?
Yeah, I think well, to me it's this is the biggest hurdle, and it's something we're still working to overcome. It is the mass indexation of all of our pages. You know, with Google crawling our sitemap a couple times, with them crawling these pages a couple times, it's very tough to just suddenly let them know, like, hey, we have like 4,000 pages that where they're great. We want you to crawl them, want you to index them, want you to show them. And especially when initially we had some of those drugs are very similar to each other. So there's been errors on Search Console where Google actually selected a different canonical than the one that we gave them, and so when that happens, there's really nothing you can do at that point until hopefully it gets recrawled again. Probably have to change up the content to make it more unique, but just overall, all the introduction of those drug pages, we've seen a lot of indexation issues over the last 2 weeks that I know we've been working through to jump through hoops to get to. We've implemented 301 redirects to some pages that aren't there anymore because we changed the URL structure. We're looking to implement the drug, I guess, comprehensive list page to make sure that all the drug product pages have a link going to it so they're no longer orphaned. And just really trying to jump through as many hoops as possible to make Google, for lack of a better term, kind of like us more. That way they can crawl a little bit better. They understand the hierarchy and the technicality of everything. Um, but that's definitely, I think, in terms of SEO, probably the biggest obstacle that we've had in recent times.
What I found really interesting as like a non-technical person was the concept of crawl rate. So you get to put out 4,000, 8,000, 10,000 pages at one time, but Google's not going to crawl all those pages. They're only going to sample a few. It might be 100, it might be 200, and it really depends on the history of your website, how many visitors there are, so many different variables. That was something I didn't really anticipate because I thought once you put all the content out there, it just kind of gets archived or it gets tracked and crawled and disseminated. But again, that was like a very interesting thing to me. And that crawl rate can go up or go down, and it can vary based on the frequency, meaning it could crawl, once a week, once a month, whatever that number is. So if you're starting off like an application, a web application, and you're very content heavy, I mean, you have to kind of keep that in mind of how you're disseminating that information based on limitations of some certain search engines like Bing or Google.
So for our viewers listening, then, since we've just gone through this, would you guys recommend to batch content out rather than do a mass upload like we did for the sake of optimization?
I'd
Or
say it doesn't
does
matter.
it? Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think you should always just launch immediately. I mean, there's always going to be limitations, right? But you just have to launch and keep iterating and keep pushing content out there.
Yeah, I think kind of the big feedback from this obstacle we're currently dealing with would be, well, definitely in something that we did do. Always make sure you have individual sitemaps for different subfolders if your site gets big, so that way it's very easy for Google to understand what pages should belong where. So let's, again, one thing we did with the drugs, we have these 4,000 drugs. We now have a specific sitemap for our drugs, so that way Google knows, hey, this is where this hierarchy lies. But I think kind of hindsight's 2020. The big thing that moving forward we should look to do, we should make sure that these pages don't get crawled or indexed until they are completely flushed out. Because I think part of the problem has been that we've had these pages sort of change over the last year a couple times, and now we have Google crawling it every single time. But like you said, with crawl rate, it only takes a sample size. And so now it's seeing a lot of fluctuations, and we're not seeing a lot of user traffic to some of those pages, which tells Google they're not as important. And so I think if from the jump we had all the content completely done, we had the links built out, we had the sitemap built out specifically for the drug product pages, I think we would still probably be dealing with this issue, but I think it would be on a smaller scale.
Hindsight's always 2020.
We build as we learn, and we learn as we build, right?
Yeah. Well, now we know for the location pages.
Yeah. Location pages, I mean, so just for our listeners, we have, I think, almost like 60 or 70,000 pharmacies in our network. And one thing we learned from our competitors is that some of them are very good at ranking for keywords that are very specific to certain locations, like certain pharmacies, based on their address, based on their fax number, based on phone number or hours. So we decided to kind of, similarly replicate that, but add interesting content behind it, like how much Bitcoin can you earn at this pharmacy in CVS at Los Angeles, California, or whatever the address is, just to create that content. And it took a very long time to one compile all this data, but two to sort of create the content that goes behind it. And sort of what we learned from our product pages is that we wanted to have all the content ready to go this one time or this times, since it's going to be something new that we're publishing out there. And yeah, I mean, we did take a learning lesson from our product pages, and we're applying it now to our location pages that we'll be launching pretty soon.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a lot of pages, a lot of content.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, I mean, looking at inbound marketing, other than those things and the blogs are kind of the heaviest SEO lift. We talk about, and I think we've actually mentioned before, kind of our Instagram strategy. We're working on our TikTok launch as well. So I know, at least on Instagram so far, it's probably been the biggest struggle on social media, just because at the end of the day, prescription discounts, the industry isn't very sexy. It's not very entertaining. It's not super engaging. You don't go on Instagram and think to yourself, I got to go see what's new in the prescription discount world. So I think that's something that we've definitely had a challenge of overcoming. And I know, at least moving forward with our TikTok launch, I think we've taken a couple things we've learned from not getting as much engagement on Instagram. And now we have almost a more modified approach to kind of get that engagement and get that interaction. So I know we're really excited for that. But other than that, in the inbound marketing channel, it's mostly the social media. We have the SEO, and then finally, more or less, our email flows, where we have our investor newsletters, our customer newsletters, our customer welcome flow, all with the intent of basically being able to have more touch points. And especially with the investor newsletter, James, I know you and Amr initially wanted the idea of creating our investor page, which we're able to do, and it looks great. And so we actually have that almost gated for investors to come and look at, so that they have to put their email in. And that way we have an inbound lead generation for investors, as well as a way to send more data out to them in the form of a touch point with up to date emails. This is kind of what we've been working on over the past month. This is what we have coming up. And I think working on that sort of automation there is something that we've considered important and have definitely taken steps to recently to kind of make sure it's more widespread throughout the organization.
I think
Yeah,
getting,
absolutely.
one thing to always highlight, especially early on, is figuring out the right systems and putting them in place early on, because responding to each and every one of those requests and emails manually, I mean, it does get tedious. And even though it is engaging, it does take a lot of time from, especially with everything else that we have going on, or other founders in the same position. There's our time is very valuable. So getting those systems in place and automating a lot of things is crucial to make sure that what needs our attention gets the most amount of time.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree. Amr, do you want to talk a little bit more about our outbound marketing?
Yeah, let's go into that. So outbound marketing, but we sort of decided to go in many different directions. I think the biggest thing that we've been working on currently is our brand partnerships. So we're trying to engage with other companies that we feel that we would benefit for them, and then other companies that would benefit ideally what we're doing, and sort of creating that synergistic relationship between the two companies, ultimately to create more brand awareness for our brand on their viewers and customers, and vice versa, and ultimately to create backlinks between the two pages and between the two organizations. So backlinks and brand partnerships have been our two biggest focuses in terms of outbound marketing. Nate, do you want to discuss a little bit more about why backlinks are so crucial, important for
Yeah,
growth?
Yeah, no, that's actually a good topic to discuss real quick. So, what a backlink is it's basically a hyperlink to your URL from somebody else's website. So, for this example, let's just say, we're on canva.com right now. Say they have a blog talking about prescription discounts and they link NiHowdy to NiHowdy.com. That in essence is a backlink. And so what these backlinks mean to Google is because they're a URL, their bots, as they're crawling and indexing different websites, they'll be able to jump to that URL from that backlink. And what it actually does is more or less gives a kind of vote of confidence, kind of like a trust signal saying, hey, this is our website that you're on, this website that we're linking to, we trust them and we're telling you that they're safe to go to. And to Google, that's a good vote of confidence. And they have a couple proprietary scores. There's been different tools throughout the web like Moz, SEMrush, Ahrefs. They all have different proprietary scoring mechanisms for what they call authority score, which is just basically a measure of your backlinking, how many trustworthy sites are backlinking to you. And the more backlinks you have, the more trustworthy you're considered. So as your trust goes up, as your authority goes up, who you backlink to will actually have more leverage as well. And so it's very important to know who you're linking to because, again, you're telling Google we associate with them, we trust them, they're okay to go to. But in terms of building up your internet presence and your SEO, Google considers backlinks pretty essential to actually showing your content and helping you rank and making sure people go there. And it's funny, a couple months ago, there was that big leak where I think there was a deprecated version of the Google search algorithm was cached somewhere off a GitHub archive. And so I know Mike King and a couple of Rand Fishkin went through there and tore that apart and really got into the weeds there, which was awesome. But one of the funnier things, obviously, we're talking about backlinks. Google has said for years, no, 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 like we don't really care that much about backlinks. And then, Mike King and Rand Fishkin go into this deprecated folder and they find the algorithm there for it. And, it's still putting pieces together at the end of the day. So it's hard to say with absolute certainty, but I think just the fact of seeing that there's some sort of measuring component to it and weighted algorithm to it, I think that's enough for us to say, okay, maybe Google wasn't lying, but they certainly weren't telling the truth. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I see backlinks is, before the internet time, it was all word of mouth referrals and word of mouth marketing that you would do with people in your community, in your area. That sort of gave that vote of confidence that, hey, if this guy's talking about this business, it must be something to check out. And then that's how you get more clients. Well, in the digital era, backlinks is exactly that, but just between sites and between companies. So it's very crucial. I mean, I think we all know in terms of regular business, word of mouth is one of the most important marketing levers that you can have. So having that same thing on the digital space it's been really important. And it's one thing that we didn't initially think about and create a game plan for. And then we sort of went back in our second iteration to really redigest that and figure out the best way to do it.
yeah,
So
well, I mean, the thing is, it's tough for a startup to build backlinks because, well, no one knows who you are, right? So, first off, you have to get your product out there. It's got to be successful. It's got to be fully vetted out and built out, and then you have your website at that point. You have your core functionality. Unless you have investors already lined up, who, if you do, they most likely have their own site and they'll most likely backlink to you, and they're kind of conglomerate of people. That's an easy way to get money or to get backlinks in. But again, if you don't have that money coming in, then you're bootstrapping, then you don't have those people that can just set that baseline for you. And so because you're brand new, also, people don't know your site still. And so you're trying to build up brand awareness just there alone to get people there, much less backlinks. So it takes a lot longer, especially as a bootstrap startup, to kind of get that going. And then you see a lot of websites, a lot of their backlinks will be kind of oriented around blogs, where they like to backlink out and try to get backlinks into, and their main pages as well. But um, without blogs, it's tough to get organic backlinks, and without features, it's tough to get organic backlinks. So you more or less have to, solicit websites, and it's just like sales. You're going to go email or talk to 100 websites, you might get one or two. So it's purely a numbers game. And I think that's why we've put so much emphasis on brand partnerships, because with a brand partnership comes a backlink. And so it's usually a little bit more powerful and a little bit more valuable than kind of hitting random websites up on the internet, trying to negotiate stuff there. Because, some people will ask for money, some people will try to negotiate. Um, and so while it's still a referral, it has become more or less this industry of, you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Yep.
We don't give backlinks out for free type of thing. So
Nate,
As
what are your
always,
thoughts? What are your thoughts on services that sell backlinks to people? Like, I've come across so many different people saying, "Hey, I can increase the number of backlinks going to your website." Well, obviously, you have to pay a nominal amount for that, but why would someone want to do that versus why would someone not want to do that?
yeah, so I'd say there's pros and cons. I think part of the bias I may have is just, a decade ago, black hat backlinking schemes were rampant all over the web, where, they could get you 10,000 backlinks, but they're from like spammy websites, or, the website has like a 1 authority score. Like, yeah, literally the lowest you could possibly have, pretty much. So I know Google cracked down on that a lot with some of their updates. I think in their Penguin update back in like 2015 or something like that, they really cracked down on backlinking spammers. But I would say always, one, do your research. I would definitely always need to have kind of like a basis of work that they've done for someone else. What links have they gotten? And I think really people that are reaching out for backlinks, it's hard for me to trust them because it feels like they won't be able to explain better than we can, right? So the backlinks that they're finding have got to be pretty easy, and I would imagine if they're super easy, they're probably low authority score. Or they also have a couple other people that they can say, "Hey, I need you to get backlinks from like our company partners," which that would be a little bit different. But in the grand scheme of things, if you're looking to hire a backlinker, if you have some extra money, my recommendation would just be hire a PR person, because a PR person will get you placements in magazines, will get you places in news and articles, and kind of like the brand partnerships, backlinks just come with it. So I think there's pros and cons. I'm not saying that a service that offers backlinks is essentially bad or scammy or fraudy or anything like that. I think it just depends on their track record. It depends on the person itself. And you just have to do your research. Just do your due diligence, just like with any service that you're thinking about buying.
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Excellent.
always paralleled it to people buying followers. It's the same thing as people,
Right?
businesses buying backlinks.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I view it. I mean,
Yeah.
it gets your numbers up and it works, but it's not authentic or organic.
Yeah, and I definitely see like a world or a situation where it is very professional. They're reaching out, they have a template they help create with you, or like you basically work together, and they're more or less just handling a lot of the implementation and stuff. I think that is very viable. It probably happens all the time. But yeah, I just would always do my due diligence on something like that, because backlinks can be good and they can be bad, and not everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people just think to themselves, the more backlinks, the better, which, logically makes sense, but the more bad backlinks, the worse. So,
So to wrap up outbound, let's talk about our Reddit campaign that we had launched, because we sort of did that, kind of off a whim. We're like, let's see if it sticks, let's see if it works, let's see what kind of response we get, and the responses that we got were pretty staggering. The feedback that we got was pretty good too. But let's dive in a little bit more into that first Reddit campaign. What
yeah,
did we
I'll
do?
let
What did we
James talk
spend?
about,
Yeah,
I'll let James talk about his first organic post, but just as like a prelude to that, one of the reasons we wanted to focus on Reddit was, at the end of the day, our ICP currently is people who understand Bitcoin and Bitcoiners. Now, we can help everyone, but in terms of looking at what's going to give us the highest adoption rate, that's where we've landed. And it is what it is. So obviously, we go to Reddit. This is somewhere that we think we can find our target audience pretty well and target them pretty accurately. And well, I mean that's why we started off on Reddit. And then the idea was we would run Reddit ads, but after we made an organic post introducing ourselves to the community. So that way they have a touch point, they have a baseline, and then they have a little bit of remarketing after that as well. And then James, you can go into kind of that start with the organic post.
Yeah, I mean, we, my God, I mean, the Reddit ads were pretty cool of an experiment. But the first thing we did was post, our product that we launched it, and we had a picture, I think, of us at Costco actually getting Bitcoin back on one of our prescriptions. So that was pretty cool. We did get some good comments, some good views, and some good clicks to our website. Simultaneously, we did decide to pay for Reddit ads to advertise on the platform. One of the most difficult things, I think, at the very beginning was getting our company approved for Reddit ads. They want us to show that we needed a license or some sort of permit, I guess, from the government. Obviously, we don't require any permits because we're not operating a healthcare entity. We're operating something a little bit different. It's more of a rebate mechanism. So that was kind of interesting to solve, and we did solve for it. And we did allocate a really small budget towards Reddit ads, and we had a lot of people come to our website, click on it. We had some people sign up. But I think what really was important for me as a founder, just putting a little bit of money into our Reddit ads, was one, we learned that, yes, people were interested in looking at our product, or at least clicking from one page to another just to find out more about our product and learn about it. That was probably the biggest lesson that we learned there. But two, it was kind of like, we tested our messaging. One thing I kind of learned was that people don't want delayed gratification kind of messaging. One of the things that we always keep talking about is how medication someday can be free if you offset it with Bitcoin. I think that was one key takeaway is people didn't really like that messaging as opposed to instant gratification of getting Bitcoin back or sats back or stocks back or whatever that messaging is. I think that probably is much more powerful in its messaging. So, those at least the two big lessons I learned is one, we do have a product that's viable and people want to click on it, learn about it. And two is really, what kind of messaging are we putting out there? It probably needs to resonate more towards instant gratification.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something I know Amar's been talking about. Creating more of a feedback loop with some of our organic customers. That's kind of the first instance where I think we saw some pretty positive feedback, right, Amar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely. I mean, specifically to Reddit, there was a lot of good comments. A lot of people. There was quite a few signups too, which means people were definitely interested. But I think it's very important. I think for most startups, and what I've noticed for ourselves is, look, you can have a great product, you can have a great service, you can be one of a kind, you can have all these different things, but what's crucial is hearing back from the people that are actually using the product and getting real world, real life feedback from them. It's very important because indirectly that's your boots on the ground, right? They're the people that are actually using the product. We can make all kinds of features and iterations what we think is ideal in this like utopia that we have in our brain, but if people that are like just randomly off the street not using it and they're not providing feedback, then you don't really know how it's faring in the real world. And I
Yeah.
think that's been something that's been a learning curve that we've definitely had. We got a lot of features and things that were launched, but hearing back from customers is what really helped us do certain pivots or provide more attention to certain things that we were doing and sort of fare away from other things, was that feedback loop that we've sort of started generating.
Yeah, and in just to share some numbers, in about 9 weeks worth of advertising on Reddit, so we spent just barely over $1,000. We've got 211,000 impressions, 1,713 clicks, with a CPC of 59 cents, which comparably to other ad services is extremely low, and a click rate of 0.81%. So we had a lot of great metrics here, a lot of great numbers. Main goal here was also brand awareness and visibility, so I think we accomplished our goal with that. And I know next steps we've talked about kind of fine tuning the campaigns a little bit more, but also creating custom landing pages for these specific campaigns. Just something we didn't have time to do before, but should when we start these back up at least kind of boost those conversions after they come to the site. So
that wraps up outbound. There's also other things like local Bitcoin meetups that we've all committed or decided that we're going to try to go to just to help get the word out, get some more organic awareness for our brand. And anything else, really, outbound is just trying to get other people to understand, see our product, respond to it, and then that's where I think the best feedback loops are really created is through outbound.
yeah,
So we can transition into product led now. We have time?
Yeah, I mean, why don't we do product led and then we'll end right there.
Yeah.
I think right before we hop on a product, one last thought I wanted to leave us with between the outbound and the inbound marketing is that while these are different channels, they are inextricably tied together. And so, for anyone listening, when you're looking at outbound channels, you're looking at creating one pagers for different ICPs. You're looking at creating different ads for different customers. You're looking at creating different brand partnerships, different backlinks. At the end of the day, what you need is inbound marketing to support your outbound marketing efforts. And an example of what I could mean by that is, say you create a one pager for an event that you're going to where people can scan the QR code and then they basically go to your site. Ideally, you would also have content curated where they're going to land from that QR code, specifically regarding who you think is going to be at that event, who you're talking to, and just trying to make sure you hyper tailor some of those inbound marketing efforts to support your outbound marketing efforts. Because at the end of the day, even if you outbound market, they're going to have to come to your site anyways. So the best thing to do is to make sure that they're received as best as they can be when they get there.
It's a really good call out.
So yeah, I mean, jumping into, I guess, the last discussion for today is just going to be product led marketing. This is, again, sort of like features on your website or something about that's really distinguishable about your product that, people can share over and over. For us, I mean, we have coupons that are shareable with our customers. Our customers can email to other people and they can use that at the pharmacy. We do have this FOMO feature. If you ever checked it out, you can kind of guesstimate how much Bitcoin you would earn or you would have if you were to use our product, 5-10 years ago, and how much that would be worth in US dollars. We do have refer a friend, and I do know a couple of our customers have actually posted that on Twitter. So that was kind of cool. Just other people trying to share a product and say, hey, look, check it out. And you could also earn some Bitcoin or Satoshis for that. We have some other ideas, but we haven't quite rolled it out yet. Not sure if we should talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially looking at one of the ideas of how much money I made tracker, where it's a good visualization of kind of the progress from where you started at to where you are now, where how much your rewards have appreciated. That's something that we have on the agenda here, but just in terms of priority over the last 2 months or so, I know we haven't had the bandwidth for UI to basically get to the product or the user portal to design that. So a couple of these things are being held up, but overall, kind of like what you said, James, this is all about creating new features for your product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just constantly improving it. And again, ties right back into like what Amr said, making sure we have a feedback loop, because that's what at the end of the day lets us know what customers are going to find important here that we should change.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that tracker is going to be really impactful because I'm a visual person, so I want to see like a graph or something that highlights over the last year how much I've saved and how much Bitcoin I've earned versus just seeing a static number. I mean, everything's more fun looking at a green graph, just like Bitcoin's graph today,
True that.
But
Awesome. Yeah, I think unless you guys want to go over any more of these a little bit more gradually, I think we can kind of pause there. But that's kind of the end of the 3 channels that we've been able to focus on, and we made kind of promises and prioritized lists for the next 3 months to accomplish. So
I think it's a good place to stop.
Yeah. Until next time.
See you guys.